In this video, we'll be looking at scary and creepy TikToks that you shouldn't watch before you go to bed.
This is a true horrifying story that took place in Somalia in the year 1998. Adil, a young man from Somalia, worked in a goat farming business in Mogadishu, the capital of Somalia. One day, Adil had orders in the city of Barbara. He had to drive there to buy sheep and goats. Barbara is a very long drive from the capital. During the road trip, he had to find a place to stay for the night. He found an abandoned house, very cheap to rent because it had no electricity. He paid the taker to spend the night there. He took off to buy some cigarettes and dinner for himself, and he went back to this abandoned house. He had a candle with him for some light inside the house while having dinner. After dinner, Adil goes outside and starts his car. Late at night, he puts a cassette in the car, leaves the door open, and plays music. Cassettes were used in most cars back in the 90s for music. Outside the car, he lights up a cigarette and vibes to the music in pitch darkness. Time goes by, and suddenly, the music stops out of nowhere. As he turns towards the car, the door of the car slams shut. He assumed it could have been the wind. He takes the cassette out, flips it, and puts it back inside. Right before lighting his next cigarette, the music stops again. As he turns towards the car, the door slams shut. At this point, whatever happened caught Adil's attention. He takes his torch, walks around, and starts reading his prayers. A few meters behind the house, he notices a woman covered from head to toe. He couldn't see clearly. The torch wasn't strong enough, but as he got closer, this being expands. It got bigger after every step he took. He runs towards the car. He tries to start the car, but the car won't start. He knew that this house is haunted. These were jinns. He is now stuck inside his car. He looks at the rear view mirror and he sees the same dark figure behind him. Adil is in a very bad situation.
Yes, he
For
is.
5 minutes straight, this figure did not move a muscle. A minute felt like an hour. His throat started drying out from fear, and there was nothing he can do. He stayed in his car, begging and praying to God till the sun came up. Hours go by. He opens his eyes, starts his car, and drives back to Mogadishu, leaving everything behind.
I mean, what would you do in that situation? Would you continue to live in the
Scary
house?
urban legends. The Lemp Mansion is considered to be one of the scariest locations in America, according to Travel Channel. In 1840, Lemp opened a small brewery not far from where the current Gateway Arch is now. It was the most prosperous companies in the region by 1879 and dominated the St. Louis beer market. After his death in August 1862, his son William took over and began major expansions, which only grew the company much more. However, the house would become a curse for their entire family. Inside of the home, there were 3 of the core family members who took their own life, and ever since, many claim that their spirits are bound to this home. In 1949, the mansion was sold off and transformed into a boarding house. It wasn't long before hauntings were reported. Witnesses claimed to see a boy who asked for someone to play with. There were also reports of inexplicable burning sensations, cold spots, slamming doors, and all sorts of other mysterious sounds.
I spent a weekend with one of the most notorious killers in Texas. So in my early 20s, I spent a lot of time in South Texas in women's prisons units helping people find forgiveness and second chances at life. And on this one particular weekend, when we arrived, the correctional officers informed our team that there was a new inmate on the premises. She was only 17 years old and had been tried and convicted as an adult for a very violent crime. And because I was the youngest person on our prison team, they voted me to be the one to work with her because she was young, I was young, and she might relate to me and open up to me. Now, I had a rule for myself when I worked with these women to never look up their crimes. I didn't want it to affect my judgment about them or to affect my willingness to help them, so that was just a rule that I always kept. So the correctional officers, they walked me down this long corridor into a classroom where sitting at the table was Erin Caffey. Now, Erin Caffey is a tiny thing. Now, I'm a tiny person, and I dwarfed her. She's very small, very timid, very soft-spoken, rarely will look you in the eye.
She probably
And
got little
my first
person
thought
syndrome.
whenever I lay eyes on her and I sit down across from her is, how could somebody this small and this timid possibly be convicted as an adult for a violent crime. What violence is she possibly capable of? Little did I know. We started talking and we kind of started to get to know each other a little bit, cracked a few jokes. I tried to get her to lighten up. And eventually she did start kind of opening up to me, and she started volunteering some details about her version of what had happened the night of her crime. And I have to admit, even though I had a rule to really try not to know what people had done, I was very curious because, again, here's this tiny little thing. She's 17 years old, looks scared to death, and...
I got a question for y'all. This is a random question. When there's captions on a video, are you still able to watch the video? I find myself having a hard time seeing the video while the captions are rolling because I'm constantly reading what's on the screen. Is it just me, or is that everybody else as well?
She's in this facility, and well, her version of the events that took place the night of the crime led me to believe that she was a victim in all of it, and that it was really out of her hands. She couldn't stop it, and she's haunted by it, regrets it every day of her life, and she just wishes she could take it all back. And y'all, she was so convincing, just absolutely convincing, that I truly believed that she was innocent. She had somehow gotten mixed up with the wrong crowd, was wrongly convicted. And I started brainstorming in my head, like, how can I raise awareness about this and help her get out? Little did I know, in my naivety, that this young lady was a psychopath. She was very cunning, very manipulative, and the small, mousy, timid, soft-spoken thing was very much a calculated tactic to be a wolf in sheep's clothing. And my time with her started a long season of my life of panic attacks and nightmares, and I'm going to tell you more about that in part 2.
I hate when they do that. You gotta go to part 2? This is creepy. Uh-oh. Uh-oh, somebody got her? Run! That can't be the picture. Man, she better run. That's what I'd do. I'm taking off. They're not catching me. I'm turning on them high school track team jets. I'm gone. She running, like, bro. She running. Oh, snap. Somebody got her phone. That's a messed up story. Where he go? That's something out of a movie. That's scary.
Have y'all heard the story of the little girl that would pray to Lucifer? This story takes place in Tijuana back in 2005. So this little girl would pray to Lucifer every night. She would ask for her mother, her father, everybody in her family, and then she would say also for Lucifer because nobody prays for him. And obviously the mother one day overheard her and she thought it was weird, and she asked her what that was about, and the little girl would just evade the question, wouldn't even talk about it. But one day, mysteriously, the little girl died, and at her funeral, this guy dressed, very humble, came and paid for everything, the funeral, all the expenses, and he just signed with an L. That was
Lucy.
it. So the mother confronts this man and says, why are you doing this? And he says, because she was the only one that prayed for me.
A quote that came out directly from one of the siblings of the victims, they were gonna get him, and they got him. So this is an update in the quadruple homicide that took place at the University of Idaho just about 6 weeks ago, and they have finally caught their suspect. You are looking at 28-year-old Brian.
Yo, I'm not gonna lie. I thought that was him. They kind of look similar, don't they? Am I tripping? Let me know if I'm tripping.
Koberger. This is a grad student from Washington State University who was pursuing his PhD in criminology. Don't have a ton of details right now about why he did it, how he even got into the house, like what was his point of entry through the second floor or the first floor. He was apprehended in Pennsylvania. He definitely was the driver of the Hyundai Elantra, the white one, the 2011 to 2013. They still don't have the murder weapon. We just covered the full timeline of this case on Creep Time the podcast that was posted prior to this discovery of the suspect, so this is brand new information.
It's based on a true story.
Did you know that you're actually warned by something to not step foot on an elevator in the Hollywood Tower Hotel? We all know 5 people stepped on an elevator and were never seen again. And
Yo, what Prince say about them elevators? Didn't he say the elevator was the devil?
to keep the same thing from happening to you, pay attention to the missing letters on the directory that aren't so missing. If you're one of the few to spot this hidden message, you'll be left with an eerie warning.
Ooh, take the stairs.
What is happening this month? This is cool, but it's crazy, and I mean, don't be too scared yet. So you probably know we get comets and shooting stars all the time on Earth, and I mean, if you look up into the sky, you probably see one. It's a regular occurrence. But not like this. This definitely doesn't happen every day. In late January, a very special comet is going to be passing Earth, and it will be visible to the naked eye. It's flipping huge. Now, why is this comet so special? Well, it hasn't passed Earth for 10,000 years. Yeah, 10,000 years. To put that into perspective, what were we doing 10,000 years ago? People were literally living like this. We were just coming out of the Ice Age, and of course, Jesus hadn't even been born for a long time. So I mean, it's going to be pretty cool, and you don't want to miss it because I doubt you'll be seeing the next one. So make sure you hit that follow button. I'll keep you updated as to when it's coming, and yeah, let's do this.
Yo, were y'all able to catch that? Unfortunately, I was not able to catch that comment due to the skies having these little clouds just covered, this overcast of clouds, so I couldn't see anything.
A TikToker called Brendan started uploading videos of himself exploring creepy abandoned buildings. Everything was going well until Brendan uploaded a TikTok of himself lost in an underground tunnel, explaining to his followers that he couldn't find his way out. Unnerved followers began asking Brendan if he needed help, but he didn't respond, simply uploading more videos over the next few days. It looked like Brendan had finally made it out of the tunnel, finding himself in a series of abandoned churches, factories, and hospitals. As he walked around these buildings,
underground
his
world.
video captions grew more cryptic, featuring variations of the words, "Where am I? Wake up, help, and run."
What is that? Yo, what is that? I've never seen that before. Look at that.
Never go down Evangeline Road,
Weird.
Louisiana. 2015, a group of urban explorers go searching for a local legend. This creature is said to be the spawn from a satanic ritual performed by a group of outcast circus performers in the late 1900s. They were deep in the woods and night was fast approaching, so they decided to set up camp. But it's what happened when one of the explorers went to pee that sends shivers down my spine. It was way darker than normal that night. The man walked about 10 feet from the fire and behind a tree. But when he turned around to go back to camp, everyone was gone, and the woods was completely silent. He called up a friend to tell him what had happened so that if he doesn't come back, someone would know why. When the rangers got to the campsite, the scene was horrific. Blood and body parts were everywhere. What happened to the explorers? And why didn't he tell his friend that the others were dead?
Right.
This is why you should never go to the bathroom during the middle of the night. In 1997, a 7-year-old boy and his younger brother had a habit of using the bathroom during the middle of the night. One day, the younger...
I mean, that's not so uncommon, is it? I mean, a 7-year-old got to use the bathroom at night? I mean, that's a good thing. At least he's not peeing in the bed, right?
brother said that he was going to start using the bathroom before bed because the past few nights he'd seen a ghost wearing stripes in the middle of the hallway. The older brother told his mom about the ghost, but she claimed that the younger brother was simply trying to scare him. 11 years later, the older boy's mother asked him if he remembered the time that the cops came to the door, but he had no idea what she was talking about. The mother then explained, "You were too young for me to tell you, but one night I woke up and heard noises coming from outside my window. I looked to my left and saw a man staring into my window. She called the cops and described him as a thin white male wearing a striped shirt. Her description matched that of a murderer who had recently escaped from prison. The police reported that he had been living in the house for weeks."
Scariest conspiracy theories in the world that will seriously change your life. This is a list of the conspiracy theories in the world, ranking from the least scary, most normal, commonly known ones, to the darkest of the dark that will ruin your life. Welcome. In this series we're going to be going from the top, most normal ones you probably know, to the most disturbing ones, and the research is probably going to disturb me a lot, so thanks. That said, let's kick off part 1, Area 51, but not how you would imagine. So Area 51, we all know it, it's probably the biggest conspiracy theory out there, well, the most well-known one, and the biggest theory about this place as well. There's aliens living inside, or there was aliens in there. I don't know, but let me know what you think. This guy right here is Bob Lazar. This guy claims that he was hired to work at Area 51 to reverse engineer alien craft. There's actually a documentary all about him. I'm pretty sure it's on Netflix. You may have seen it. And this guy is a very clever guy. He's not some nobody. Now, first of all, this is his drawing of an alien spacecraft. This is where it gets crazy. We all think this is the main Area 51, don't we? Maybe it is. Or is that what they want us to believe? Now, Bob claims that is not where stuff actually happens. It's located miles away, hidden in the desert, this area called Area S4. If you look into this place, it's hella creepy, and if you actually go to the coordinates, it's basically blurred out, but there's also something crazy which I'll show you later. This is the area it's located in. There is literally nothing around apart from thousands of miles of just desert. I mean, it's not like some bloke's got his house out there. Look on Google Earth or photos online, this is what you'll see. A big car park which has quite a lot of cars and vehicles in it. Someone did some research into this and it actually looked like army vehicles as well. You can see these two doors or holes into the basically into the mountain. And Bob claimed this is actually the entrance to the real Area 51 where he worked. Cassette saying that he engineered and reverse engineered the spacecraft. Well, I don't know. What is going on here? Make sure you hit that follow button because this is going to get
I believe Bob.
Part 2 tomorrow.
Nothing scares me like Appalachia. So this Thanksgiving, Paige Hills was meeting her boyfriend's family for the first time in Appalachia. And basically, immediately upon driving into the area, she starts getting a bad feeling. She chalks it up to nerves, but it keeps getting worse that night. The family was all having dinner inside, but there was a window open. And Paige starts to hear whistling coming from the woods through the window. She doesn't really think anything of it because maybe someone was outside smoking, but that night the whistling comes back, louder. And on top of that, it sounds like someone is saying her name over and over and over again. So she goes to the window to see what's up, and there's just two red eyes staring back at her from the woods. The next morning at breakfast, she asked the family what that could have been, and they immediately looked like they saw a ghost. They told her to never speak of it ever again, and the next time she hears something, no, she didn't. So Paige is freaked out, but she has another night in the house. And that's when her boyfriend pulls her aside to show her this photo. This is what their trail cam caught the night before, and she was to never mention it again.
Is that Mothman or something?
Here are some of the dumbest criminals of all time. Part 1. An 18-year-old in Chicago was attempting to rob a muffler shop. When he demanded the money, the employee working there said that the only person who could get inside of the safe was the manager, who had just left. Instead of doing what any normal person would do, getting the hell out of there, this dude gives the employee his phone number and says, "Call me when your manager gets back." As soon as he walked out, the employee called the police, then he told the robber that the manager was back, and he was arrested and sent to jail. A 21-year-old named Frank Singleton was just released from jail. Immediately following his release, he carjacked a woman in the prison parking lot. While he was successful, he didn't know how to drive a manual, so he was sent back to jail. When police asked him why he didn't just wait a few minutes before returning to his life of crime, Frank said, "I didn't really feel like walking."
These are the most haunted places in the Philippines. Before I start listing them down, you do need to know that for all paranormal investigators, the country of Philippines is on their to-do list, as it's known worldwide for its haunted destinations. Starting at number 4, Fort Santiago, Intramuros in Manila. The walls of Intramuros turn into something terrifying, reminding you of the dark Spanish era. Thousands of civilians and soldiers were tortured and killed in Fort Santiago during World War II. It may be a hot tourist spot, but at night, the strange noises that are heard in this fort tends to keep visitors and tourists away. Number 3, Clark Air Base Hospital in Pampanga. This abandoned building used to be a military hospital during World War II and the Vietnam War. Paranormal investigators have confirmed that demons have conquered this property. It is commonly visited by YouTubers, but things always go wrong. The jinns that are specifically in this hospital are a little more protective towards their home. Number 2, Manila Film Center, Pasay City. This building is potentially one of Asia's most haunted destinations. When a building is haunted in the United States, you will hear noises. But when a building is haunted in the Philippines, it is a whole nother level. This film center was abandoned in the 80s after it collapsed during construction. It killed all the workers and none of their bodies were retrieved. And ever since, visitors were always warned to stay out of this building. The bad energy in this place spiritually drains you. And finally, number 1, Diplomat Hotel in Baguio City. Baguio City is ranked as the world's most haunted city as a whole. The Diplomat Hotel goes way back to 1911. No priests were able to cleanse this place. After many deaths inside this hotel, the business ceased its operations in 1987. Many paranormal investigators from around the world swore that they would never visit this building again. The Philippines is a beautiful country, but it is well known for its horrifying stories.
These are some of the most scary and creepy TikTok videos that you should probably not watch before you go to bed. If you like the content, don't forget to subscribe, turn your notification bell on, and until next time, YouTube, peace.